Well, all right.
Yeah,
Well, hey, Gavin, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. I mean, as you know, I'm assuming I think you said that was your first podcast that you did.
that was my first. Yeah, with a guest.
Okay. So as you'll find, and I found now in the last year and change, it's really hard to get people to commit, which is understandable, right? It's, hey, I don't have an hour and a half or an hour to dedicate to go just talk to you about running on the or whatever, on a Wednesday, but thank you for doing it.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Um,
yeah,
and
no
I
problem.
had
Thanks
like
for having me on.
yeah, no, I just started. I don't know how I stumbled upon you on Instagram. You know how that algorithm works. I follow a ton of runners, and I saw all your stuff, and I was like, man, that guy has a good story. So that's what I wrote down. I just wrote down a couple things. One, I wanted to talk about the podcast sound mess up, which we did. Um,
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the race you just did because it was kind of crazy. You posted that video of you finishing the race, and I saw that it was put on by Mad Moose Events
Mhm.
and that woman's voice, I was like, I know that voice. So I did in 2021, I did the Arches 50, and they were
Oh
the
yeah.
race people. It was Mad Moose events, and I heard that lady's voice. I was like, that's her. And then we'll talk about the race, but then I want to talk about the journey that you're on. Where you
Mm.
started to where you are now, and then what your next thing is, which is I think is pretty crazy, which is that run across the state.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So the Mad Moose. Just a little on that.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite race series to run for, just because it's kind of a smaller series, and the people behind it, they're phenomenal. They work so hard, and I think they originated in. I think they're out of Utah, so I think most of their main races are like in the Moab area. They just recently branched out to Colorado.
That was a that race, man, was pretty awesome. It was like right during COVID. There was
Mm.
four of us that came out. Three of us did the 50 and one guy did the half. And Moab was kind of like on half shutdown. So we always talked about going back because it was such a cool event. Like the whole thing was really cool. And if you've never run out there in Moab in that Arches National Park, it's like running on Mars. I mean, you literally see
Yeah,
the scenery and you're like, where am I? It seems like you're on a different planet, but it was pretty awesome. So what was the name of the one you did?
that one's in Colorado Springs. It was called the Rattler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and that's a fun one because, like I said, it's in Colorado Springs, but it's in this park called Palmer Park, and it's right pretty much. It's on the northern end of Colorado Springs, but it's right in the center of town. But it's this really weird park that has just all sorts of rock formations. I mean, we ended up getting like 4,500 feet of elevation gain with just two 15-mile loops. So that kind
Wow.
of tells you, the different
Yeah.
terrain. And actually, some of the part of the trail is pretty technical, like really rocky, really sandy. So I think it's just, and when you get on the top, because you're always, you summit, you go back down, you summit, you go back down. And when you get up to the top, the views are just pretty much of the entire valley of Colorado Springs, and then there's Pikes Peak, the 14er, sitting right there in the
Oh,
background.
wow.
So I mean, it's just yeah, it's gorgeous. It's one of my favorite races, and it's been getting bigger every year. I've done it for 3 years now, and every year there seems to be about like 15, 20, 25 more racers. So which is cool for Mad Moose, because I know they're trying to get more and more each race series.
Yeah. So you said it was your third one of that event?
That that was my third time running the Rattler. Yep.
Okay. And when you started when you trained for the first one, I saw that you improved your time from the last one to this one by like an hour and a half. I mean, like a huge, huge difference. Tell me like
Yeah.
what happened there? Like did you know because of the course? And the other thing I'm gonna ask you about is like you said it was two 15-mile loops. So
Mhm.
was it just that one aid station or was there aid station out on the course? Like how many times did you get to go to like through or an aid station?
So there's the main aid station right there at the start. So you start, and then it's 5 miles, and then another aid station, and then you'll hit that aid station consecutively. You'll hit that twice during a loop. So you'll
Got it.
start at the start, hit the aid station at 5 miles. run around, hit it again at 10 miles, and then you'll go back to the start, which is the halfway point, and then you do that again.
Okay. So same loop, but okay. That's
Yep.
cool.
Yeah, which is good because, if you got family or friends
Yeah.
down there, like I had my wife down there, it's real easy for them to see you,
Yeah.
pretty much 3 times a loop,
Yeah.
so, and they only got to travel from the 1 aid station to the start.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah. It's convenient.
so what did you do? Do you think you could nail it down to like maybe specific training that you did? Did you add weight training? How did your training go into this? And did you have that goal in mind?
Yeah. So, it's pretty easy to compare it to the first time I ran it because the first time was in 2024. And that was, I mean, I was just getting into running then. I think that was my um, third race since I had started running. So I was still real, new into the sport. My fitness was just starting to build. So
Yeah.
that's why the PR was so significant comparing it back to that time. I couldn't compare it to last year's time when I ran it because last year it snowed on us all day. It was super muddy.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, you can't really compare that one. But the fitness this year, and I wasn't even really training for that race specifically. I've just been training for bigger races later on this year. That was just kind of a fitness test,
Hmm.
and so the like specific training, even before I had dialed in this, major run across Colorado coming in. I've just done a lot more speed work, a lot more strength training, just kind of dialing in the more fundamentals of specific training. When I first started out, I was just winging it, kind of
Yeah.
just going off of, kind of what I thought was right.
Yeah.
And like that got me in trouble more times than not,
Yeah.
because I was doing a lot of things wrong. So just this last year, I've really been able to dial things in, teaching myself more. Had 3 years of learning what not to do, so just really trying to apply those. And I think that's really what contributed to the overall hour and a half PR, even though I did miss my ultimate goal mark, because I've had some like 4 weeks before that, I had a 20-mile run that was real, impressive for myself. So I was kind of basing the time off of that run.
Yeah.
And then, it's just you add on the 10 more miles, and the fitness wasn't where I wanted it to be, even though it was still, impressive compared to when I first ran it. It's still not where I think it should be. I think I was still capable of more, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean
But
when
it's
you
just
can run,
trial and error.
yeah, but when you can run like a 520 or 519 50K with 5,000 or whatever feet of elevation and a technical trail, it's pretty good. It's pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, and that's I was the one thing too that because I'm trying to focus more on the positive and the small little wins is like the entirety of the race. Usually, I always have like some sort of not injury necessarily, but like little niggles is what I call them. Like the knee will start. I feel like a sharp pain in the knee or the calf or something like that, and I'll be like, oh man, I got to suffer through for like the next 10 miles. I had none of that this time around. It was pretty much just overall like effort is where I
Mhm.
was lacking, and like I was holding back a little bit more than maybe I should have, just because I didn't want to have that blow up. And
Yeah.
I was a little worried about like, well, if I push here, I might blow up in another 5 miles. So I was just kind of testing there. But the one thing is that I was really happy with is that like the mechanical system throughout the whole 30 miles was just really on point. And I think that really is where like the strength training comes into
Yeah.
play, because I've done a lot more just single leg strength training and stuff like that the last 6 months. I think
Yeah.
that's really helped.
Yeah, I can totally attest to that. I had a foot injury like 2.5 years ago and couldn't figure out what it was. It was like the outside of my foot. Anyway, what was happening is my ankle was collapsing in, and I had run trails for the last 15 years. So they were my tendons were so shot and loose that it was like collapsing. Long story, I started doing rehab, and all the rehab was single leg everything. Like single
Mm,
leg balance, single leg calf raises, single leg on the Bosu ball, single leg lunges. And most recently, I just ran a 50 miler Saturday. And into that training, I started doing, I saw, do you know the guy? There's a guy His name's Mike Boyle. He's like a trainer online. He's an older guy. But anyway, long
Okay.
story, he started posting these videos of the like 50 years ago people training in Russia, and they were Olympic sprinters and they only do half squats. And I was like, that makes perfect sense for running. If you think about it, there's really no need because you're never out there doing a full squat. Your leg is staying half bent the whole time
Yeah.
pretty much, right? So I started doing on a slant board half squats. And I mean, I'm not talking like I just don't break 90 and I don't you know what I mean? I go where I feel like it's working and then just do those. And I've been doing those for like 2 or 3 months. And man, they helped out a lot in that race on Saturday. I could tell a
No,
huge
that's
difference.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my next question. I was going to ask you about the running part about it. You said you wing it, you wang it like the first year, but do you follow or is there anybody that's training you? Do you have a trainer or are you just following a program or just something that you just feel like you've got the experience now to know, hey, I got to put in 50 miles a week and I'm going to do these long runs and these intervals and all that. You just do, or do you have a trainer?
No, no, I'm totally solo. And I'm one that I'll study pretty much everybody who puts their information out online, Strava, Instagram. I follow, quite a few people who are just pretty open to their training plans who are kind of in the elite level. So I'll kind of take what I've learned doesn't work and then I'll apply that and then I'll also follow these guys's plans and their weeks throughout their strength training and stuff like that and apply that to myself. Where I was getting in trouble there for a while is, I've always kind of been competitive and stuff. So I've always thought I should be at this level when the fitness like wasn't even close to that level. So I've had to really back off. Like I'll still put the structure into my plan, but I can't compare the numbers. Like maybe I can't do, 110, 120-mile weeks. So then I'll back off. I'll still put the structure in the plan, but I'll adjust it to like my capability. And that's really helped.
Yeah.
So like with that being said, like the whole even last year leading up to my bigger race last year that I actually DNF'd. I was just doing way more than my body was capable of handling, and it
Yeah.
worked for a while. I got really fit midsummer last year, and I should have just kind of held on there and even backed off a little bit, but I kept pushing, thinking that like I could handle more and more and
Yeah.
more, and then I went into that race in September just way overtrained. And
Yeah.
yeah, that really bit me. So to answer your question, I pretty much know what I'm capable of now, and I'm really focusing on like building, the base
Yeah.
and just keep steadily building instead of just trying to like kind of get to that level without putting in the necessary time.
Yeah. It's funny, like I used to run marathons and try to run fast marathons. I wasn't very fast. I mean, my personal best was 2002 and I ran like a 320. But I used to be able
Mm,
to run, 6 minute miles, 6:30, 7 minute miles for a half. And I think what people that if you're not a runner and you look at people's, that run road races and 5Ks and they're running, 5 minute miles for 3 miles, I feel like they don't understand how it doesn't translate to the trail, right? Like if you go from road to trail and you think you're going to run sevens on the trail, you're going to have a wake up call. What I'm leading
yeah.
up to is that what you're saying, it's like it never fails. Everyone, the guys I run with are training like I used to train 20 years ago, where they think every run has to be fast, right? Like every long run, I got to run 9 minute miles or 8 minute miles for 20 miles, or, the world's going to end. But this 50-mile training I did, I just said, you know what? I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna watch my heart rate. I'm gonna try to keep my heart rate at 135 and run for 4 hours and see what pace that is. And it was like, 10, 15, 10:30. And I think that anyone that trains and maybe overtrains is doing too much and they're not letting their body, like you said, recover. They're not letting their body
Hmm.
recover from the week, the middle of the week runs where you're probably doing it faster, shorter, and then your long runs are supposed to be like on tired legs to get used to that time on feet. Um,
Yeah.
so switching gears a little bit to gear. which I like to always ask people. And I know shoes is a tough one because it's really specific to each individual, depending on what their foot, they're like everything, right? Because feet, are all different, and your gait is different and all that. But so, what kind of gear are you wearing, like for that 30 mile? Are you wearing what kind of shoes, technical clothing? Do you use? I don't think you had a pack. I couldn't remember if you did, or do you hit it handheld? Like, what's your setup?
Yeah, so my go-to trail shoe, and I've for whatever reason, I've even tried to like kind of steer away from this specific shoe, and I constantly keep coming back to it just because I'm kind of a shoe nerd. I love trying out
Yeah.
different pairs, different brands, and it's the Nike Pegasus Trail.
Oh wow.
I
Okay.
love that shoe, and they just redid it and came out when they switched over to ACG, and that's the one I ran in this weekend, and it's phenomenal. I've now tried to. Well, I mean, we'll see what the future holds, but I'm saying I've got to stick with this shoe because every time I try to, navigate to something else, it always just bites me. So anyway, Nike Trail Pegasus is my go-to trail shoe, and then my road trainer when I'm not on the trails is the A6 Nova Blast.
Oh yeah. Oh geez.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, they're all around just comfort's great. They're not doesn't have too much stack on it, but it doesn't have too little. It's kind of right there in the nice middle. If you need like some speed sessions, they're pretty stable for that.
Yeah.
If I'm doing, I've got the A6 Sonic, I think Sonic Blasts as well, and that's more of like an aggressive speed shoe. And I've used those in a couple of speed sessions, and they're good. They're just I've got weird feet, and they're a little too narrow for my feet. So if I try to run, any more than like probably 10 miles on them, my foot kind of starts to get like that numbing, like when you're
Yeah.
kind of losing
Yeah.
feeling in your foot.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, the Nova Blasts are my go-to. And then I used to run all my races in a pack, and it was the Ultimate Direction. It was like a black pack. I don't know what
Yeah.
model,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it was a great pack, and I still have it. I'll use it for my longer races in the latter half of this year. But all my training runs and just the race I ran last weekend, I used those naked belts.
Oh yeah.
They're real tight, and they've got three
Mhm.
pockets all
Yeah.
around. I love those. Yeah, they're great. And then so I'll put a bottle in the back, all the gels, and then my phone, and then I'll keep one handheld. So I'll always have two bottles on me
Yeah.
during, you know,
What kind of socks?
I typically train in just Nike socks, but I'll race in Bobas. Yeah, Boba socks. There's just a little more fabric to them than the Nikes. I figured out on the longer runs, like anything over 20 miles, if your feet are sweating too much, like the Nike, I'll almost wear a hole in the Nike socks just in like a basic training run.
Wow.
But if I'm going out, 10, 15 miles, just like a normal run, I like the Nikes because they're just a little more breathable.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever tried Swiftwick, but Swiftwick makes probably, in my
Oh,
opinion,
yeah.
the best sock. I've worn them in every long race and every ultra, and thank God never had any problems whatsoever. Blisters. I mean, these things get wet and they recover. I put Vaseline all over my whole foot though every time. Anything over like 10 miles or if it's hot outside. This last weekend it rained all week. It was muddy as hell. And I wear Hoka Speed Goats in Swiftwick socks, and I've never had any complaint whatsoever about them. I've in the wintertime though, I started wearing features because they had like a winter, like a heavier kind of a smart wool type sock. I don't know if you ever heard of
Okay.
features, but they make a pretty good pair too. Um,
Gotcha. I
I
have
think,
I have tried the Swiftwick before, and
yeah,
I don't know why I don't continue to use those because I do remember I really liked them. They were
yeah.
a little expensive, I remember. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, they're probably like everything nowadays. I was gonna tell even like shoes. I mean, you can't get a decent pair of shoes for under 150 bucks. So the socks are
No.
like 15, $18 a pair. But honestly, I have Swiftwicks that have lasted me 10 years. I mean,
Oh, okay. So
I
they're
buy
durable.
them and but I still they're really durable. But I think
Okay.
you have to get the right one. They make like a biking sock, but there's like an Aspire. There's like all different like models of their socks, but I swear
Okay.
by them. What about so you just mentioned that you have the belt. So I had a guy on, his name's John DeDonker, and he's going for his 10th Leadville finish this year.
Oh,
And
cool.
he turned me on to these shorts that they're called Terragnata. It's like Teringnota or something like that. But anyway, they have that built in. They have that belt built in to the top. And
Okay.
telling you, man, I bought 3 pair of those, and they're the best shorts because I wear compression underneath and put those on. Phone fits right in the front pocket, doesn't get sweaty, doesn't get, it doesn't move, has side all the way around like storage, and they're pretty amazing. I wore them Saturday and had no problems whatsoever. But I looked into that belt, but there's another brand. It was like Flip Belt. Have you heard of that
Yeah,
one?
I
And
have.
I got one, but I got the wrong size. It was too big, so it wasn't tight enough. So I felt
Mm.
like I was like, this isn't going to work for me. But um,
I'll have to look into those shorts.
yeah, I'll send you a link afterwards, or
Okay.
like just the name of it, because here's the other thing. They're $29.
Oh,
And I was
wow.
like, that's pretty good. And I think
For shorts and a belt.
they make a 5 inch and a 7. They don't make a 3, but I don't think ever recommend a 3 for anything long distance wise. It just felt like I made that mistake, and the chafing was so bad. You need
Yeah.
some length, I think. Um, what about
So,
nutrition? Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, real quick, you keep mentioning your 50 miler this weekend. How'd that go
Yeah.
for you?
Oh man. Um, it's a this course, it's called the Loud Thunder 50. They got a half marathon, a 50K, and a 50 miler. And I did the 50K 2 years ago, and a couple of my friends did the 50 last year. So I signed up for this year. And the let's say, like I told you, it rained all week, so it was going to be they were almost going to cancel it. So 2 years
Mm.
ago when they did 50K, they had to alter the course because it was so wet. And this year they're like, we're not changing the course, and there's a possibility because of tornadoes we might have to cancel it. They didn't. Great. So it was 30 degrees at the start, and the sun was just coming up, and it was muddy and wet, but the leaves were all covered on top of it, so it made it even worse. And
Oh,
there
man.
was, I think, out of the 50 miles, it was 8,500 feet of gain.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was ups and downs in the mud, and it was brutal. Like probably one of the hardest. I think I said to somebody the other day, I was like, that 50 was harder than the first 50 in Leadville for
Mm.
sure, just because of the
Yeah,
conditions. It got cold, it was windy.
that's brutal.
But but unlike trying to go for a time for me, because I usually will, I just said after the first loop, there's a 5 mile loop and an 8 mile loop, and you do it 5 times, but the last fifth one you only do like a half of the 8 mile one. So anyway,
Mm.
I was like 13 miles in, I'm like, all right, time is out the window now because you had to literally like walk in certain areas because you just couldn't run. It was like not runnable. And
Mhm.
as soon as I changed my mind from trying to run fast to just finishing, it it helped mentally, but it was still super hard.
That sounds brutal. That
Yeah.
sounds, one of those races, though, that you probably won't forget, right?
Oh yeah. No, definitely not. It was and the amount of people that were there, the guy that runs it, this guy Josh Sun, he's called Sun Trail Racing. He's got a bunch of races around here in the Quad Cities and Dubuque. They put on a great race, really well supported. Um, it was awesome. It was awesome. It was really, really awesome to get that one done.
Nice.
So I was going to ask you about nutrition or like for fluids and like what kind of do you do tailwind or any kind of electrolytes and what are you
Mm.
eating? Are you looking at carbs? Are you looking at calories per hour? What kind of metrics are you looking at?
Yeah, so I've been definitely getting on the high carb game, just because it's a game changer. You know, everybody talks about it, and it's absolutely true. It depends. The longer races, like the 100 milers, I'll try to eat more real food
Yeah.
during those. Still getting, high carb consumption, but just the gut after so many hours, can only handle so much sugar and stuff like that. So I'll definitely be trying to get real food during those. Like for the 50K this weekend, though, for instance, I always have carbs in my bottles, and then I'll always have gels. So now sometimes I'll dilute the carbs in the bottle. So say, you know, on like a high carb mix, I'll have, 7 scoops on a
Hmm.
normal high carb mix, but then I'll have one bottle that's only got 1 scoop in there. So it just gives me a little bit, but it
Yeah.
tastes more like water. So like the palate,
Yeah.
doesn't get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to push. Just died.
Yeah.
Did that mess you up at all?
That sounds 100 times better, by the way.
Oh, there you go. So I was using the headphone speaker, and
That's
now
what,
it's actually the computer.
oh yeah, it's sounds way better.
There you go. Okay. Um, so yeah, so I will definitely push like 90 to 100 grams of carbs per hour, and I'm using in my for the drink mixes. I was using Scratch there
Uh-huh.
for a long time. They're out of Boulder, and they use cluster dextrin, which is a lot better on the gut. That's why I was using them, and just the taste is phenomenal. The sodium carb ratio is great. But just recently, I got turned on to a brand. I met the one of the co-founders on just a random training run here in Golden, and it, it's called Open Fuel of carbs per serving, but it's got, I believe, 500 milligrams of sodium along with that serving. So that and the flavor is phenomenal. And so ever since I found them, I've pretty much transitioned to just strictly open fuel for the bottle source. They're really good. And then the gels, I'll go back and forth between precision and carbs, just straight. The brand's called Carbs. They're also
Yep.
out of Holden.
I
I do carbs because I think they're 50 grams. Yeah, they're 50 grams per serving. So it's just a little, you get the 10 more. And they're really cheap. They're on the
yeah.
cheaper end. And they seem to be the same quality, in my opinion. I don't have any GI issues with them. So,
Yeah, I just stumbled on those probably right when I started training for this race, and had on a local guy here. He owns a Fleet Feet here in Davenport, and he told me about carbs. So I
okay.
went, I bought 3 boxes of the gels, and I used them Saturday. And I'm telling you, I used them all training, and I was just I I thought 100 was a lot, and I'm like, well, I'll just do one an hour, right? And I was doing my other stuff too. I eat like these little protein balls and some other stuff, but those
Mm.
carbs, man, you're right. The the game has changed, and I think it was David Roach who
Yeah.
basically changed it into, and now they're saying there are like if you did the testing for your own body, now they're saying like some people it could be even like 150, 125, 150 per hour depending on where like your physiology and how you're burning and all this other stuff. But man, we were way back when we were training, it was always like, okay, calories per hour, you need 350 a minimum per hour. How are you going to get it? Rice, potatoes, whatever it was. But now I'm telling you, man, those carbs things, and they fit like right in the front here and they fit on the side. They're not they're not as like jelly as like a goo. It's got
Mhm.
more liquid flavor to it. So let me ask you this. I saw somebody else do this and I never thought of even doing it, but I saw people putting those gel packs or goos into their water
I
and
have heard
mix
of
it.
that. I haven't tried it.
I never tried it either. I was like, that's new. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, like what you were saying with the carbs, they're more of a liquid consistency already.
Yeah.
So I could see how you could really dilute them with, you know, do do a normal flask of water and dump one of those in there, give it a good shake, and I bet you
Yeah.
it's a pretty decent consistency.
Yeah. Yeah, so I went through those like crazy. I was doing one in every hour. And I'm telling you, man, I think that's got to be it. That's like the new strategy. And
Yeah.
when I was out in Leadville, I went there in 2016 and did Leadville 100. But we met someone at one of the local stores in downtown there. It was the first time I ever heard of Tailwind, and I think
Mm.
that's where they started was there. And we were doing Perpetuum and Tailwind, and I've been doing Tailwind ever since. They've come out with, Tailwind with the caffeine now, and they've got like so much stuff, and I just get used to it. I like it. But I was telling someone the other day, like, when you're running for 12 hours, and you're drinking Tailwind, water tastes so good.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
yeah. No doubt about that. Yeah, and then speaking, of filling the flask, that Open Fuel brand I was talking about, I
Yeah.
believe they just came out. I don't think it's released yet, but I think it's in the works. They're actually starting their own. It's a mix, but you'll mix it in water, and then you'll let it sit. Maybe you'll shake it up and then let it sit for a minute, and it'll actually turn into a gel. And so they're trying to eliminate all the waste,
Yeah.
of like the trash waste, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they'll sell flasks that are made, to sip on the gel. And then, but yeah, you mix it with a certain ratio of water, let it sit, and it'll turn into a gel. So then you can have that. And I mean, if you can put a full flask in your belt. I think of how much, of a gel you could put into a flask. Then
Yeah.
you're not carrying all these individual packets. So I think that'll be fun when they finally release that. I still think they're working on it, but I think it's
Yeah.
definitely going to come to the scene.
Speaking of flasks and stuff like that, I've got so many different model handhelds and all that. But I don't know if it's probably happening in Colorado. I know it definitely is because a buddy of ours he ran. I paced him at Leadville in 2021 or 2022. But anyway, no cups anymore anywhere.
Right.
Is it the same out there now with all these races like on the one you just did? No cups. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, cupless races.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which, when I think about it, I was like, they did it at the race I ran, and I was like, I get it. Like, you don't obviously want all these cups, um, out on the trail or in the trash, or like everywhere. But I mean, I guess if you were to just have like, a cup and then a trash right there, I get it. It just was like, when you're running for 10, 12 hours, sometimes you forget. So like,
Mhm.
you go into an aid station thinking, I can just get a cup of water or a cup of Sprite or Coke or whatever, and they don't have it, and you don't have a bottle, you're out of luck.
Yeah, yeah, it could really, especially deep into an ultra like that. I have noticed with most races that do say cupless, it's more of just an incentive. So like maybe 70% of people will bring their own cup, and then that 30% who do forget, or maybe they lost their
Yeah.
cup somewhere, they do have some extra cups,
Mhm.
there just for those people that do have that. But it's not every race, but I have noticed that with quite a few races because
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I forget my cup or I don't bring it or.
Yeah. I was joking with a guy. A guy pulled off to the side of the trail, and he had to go to the bathroom. And I was like, "Hey, man, you got to take that with you, man. You can't leave that out here, out in the woods. You can't. You got to take it with you."
Yeah, that's funny.
Mm. So all right, now let's dive into this. I think, I've did you ever hear of a guy named David Clark
That does
from
sound
Colorado?
familiar. I can't put my
Okay,
finger on it. That does sound
so
familiar.
he was, and I'm not comparing him to you, but this was his story. His story. He wrote two books. One was Unbroken and another one, but he was 350 pounds, drunk, drugs, um, became really successful, but was just a mess. And then he lost all the weight, and then he became like the most unbelievable ultra runner, for a period of time. He had the record for 48 hours on the treadmill. He did double Leadville one year. The guy he did Badwater. I mean, he turned into like amazing person and ultra runner. And I think that's kind of what your story is, and I'll let you tell it. But I feel like I know so many people now. He has since passed away from a stupid ridiculous operation that like happened during COVID. He got sepsis and he ended up passing away. But one of the best guys ever. He ended up. I met him in 2015 when I was training for Leadville and was friends with him for a while there. But I have another friend that did Leadville in 2022. That same thing. Recover. He was sober for 5 years. Running helped him get through it. All that kind of stuff. So I don't know if that's your story, but I think it's similar story. If you want to share it.
Yeah. Well, just on David Clark, you said.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to look into his books because that is right up that is right up my alley. And I really look up to people who have already navigated, from one life pretty much to a completely different life. And I do feel like a lot of ultra runners, a lot of endurance athletes kind of have that similar story, because it's I always tell people, kind of when I do tell my story, is the number one thing you have to do, when it comes to battling and also, winning the addiction type of deal, is you have to replace that addiction energy with something else, or else, because we're addicts for a reason, whether it's being our DNA or the household we were raised in, whatever that is, it's pretty much in us. And that's not just because you quit something, or you can stop using something, or you don't rely on something anymore, doesn't mean you don't still have that inside of you. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's where running definitely came into my life. And I started running on accident. It wasn't even running when I very first got sober. It was I was on this plan, called 75 Hard, put on
Okay.
by the First Form CEO Andy Frisella. I can tell
Yep.
you've heard about it.
Yep.
Um, and I was just doing that. I was just walking every day for 45 minutes, because I had so we'll go back to high school and like my younger years. Sports were everything. I was an athlete. I played soccer, cross country, football. Like I like sports were just everything for me. And then straight out of high school, I just stopped playing everything, didn't have a team anymore. Moved to Montana, ski bummed it for a number, well, actually only just about a year and a half. And then that's where the whole party scene really came into play, just was partying every night. I didn't move to Montana for college. I just moved there literally to ski, drinking, recreational activities. And just pretty much made that my lifestyle. And then that bled into all of my early 20s. So, anyway, long story with that is I got tired of that lifestyle eventually. Um, I I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Most people haven't, but I smoked a lot of marijuana,
Okay.
and I developed something called CHS, and it was cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. And it's a condition where when you smoke so much weed on a daily basis, your body actually, um, like the cannabinoids in your system start to get overwhelmed and overstimulated. And it got to a point to where, the beginning of it is where if I didn't smoke weed, say like in the morning, I wouldn't be able to eat. I had like zero appetite. And then if I did try to eat, I would like immediately have like this vomit feeling of where like I had to throw everything up. And then it got so bad because the only time I could eat was if I smoked. So then I started smoking even more. And that
Yes.
led to where smoking didn't even help anymore. Like
Yeah.
even if I did smoke, all morning, I couldn't even eat, during the afternoon. So I got really, really unhealthy. I lost a lot of weight. I'm kind of, a decently big build, and like I got down to like 155 pounds, just total skin and bones. Um, yeah, was like super dehydrated every day, wasn't eating, really, really unhealthy. So anyway, that was kind of a long journey that lasted for a number of years. And then I finally figured out what it was, and it was the marijuana affecting me because you get told by everybody and everything about marijuana, it's a medicine, it's supposed to be a medicine. So I'm like, no way, this is the
Yeah.
problem. No way it's hurting
Yeah.
me. So I just didn't believe, even if, because I went to multiple doctors, and there was one doctor in particular who told me about CHS. Because at this time, I think we're talking about 20, maybe 2022, 21. Um, there was very little information out there about CHS. Now you can look it up and like it's all over the place. There's a lot of people that suffer from it now. But anyway, this one particular doctor told me, he's like, he asked me, do you use marijuana? I said, yeah, quite a bit, And he goes, started going through all the symptoms. And he's like, I think you have what we call CHS. Told me all about it, and I left that doctor's office just, madder than a hornet. I was like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. There's no way it's that. So anyway, long story short, someone pretty important in my life told me, they're like, what do you have to lose at this point? Why not just quit using marijuana, for a solid month and see if you get better? And
Yeah.
I was at just the horrible, horrible spot in my life to where I was like, you know what, you're right. I'm just gonna stop. Anyway, I stopped, and it was literally like I was getting off of, like, I've never done heroin before, but I've heard the stories of like people that get off of heroin, they get nasty shakes, cold
Yeah.
sweats at night, it's like they're almost dying. That was how it was for me when I stopped smoking, like the first 2 weeks. It was absolute, like, just horrible insanity. But anyway, I stuck through it and I powered through it, and lo and behold, I got 100% better in a matter of like 3 to 4 weeks. And I was like, son of a bitch, like that's exactly what it was. You know what I mean? And then, typical addiction story, I kept going back through, like back to it, because I was like, well, I could slowly, maybe I'll smoke a few times a day or a few times a week and it won't happen again. No, CHS would come rushing back. So anyway, I battled that for a few years. And then finally, when my wife, because all when I was going through this, I had, who was my wife or now at the time, she was just my girlfriend. And so then we got engaged, and then she got pregnant with our first child, my daughter. And so I was like, I definitely need to change my life at this point. So, and I knew exactly what I needed to do. I just needed to stay off of it. So anyway, that's when I found 75 hard. Got sober right at that. I quit everything. I quit tobacco. I was a huge tobacco chewer. I quit using marijuana. I tried quitting alcohol. That didn't come into play until way later. But anyway, so during 75 hard, towards the end, I started just randomly running because I was walking every day, twice a day. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to run to that mailbox. And then that slowly turned into more and more and more. And then I remember the last day of 75 hard, my goal was to go and out and run 3 miles. And I almost did it, but I ended up having like horrible stomach issues and I made it like 2.5 miles. But I was like, damn, like I could have done that. And I think that was the bug right there, is like I kept wanting to run more and more and more. And that's kind of where running came into my life. And then I was running, maybe 3, 4 miles a day, nothing crazy. And then somebody else told me about a race back home. It was a half marathon called the John Wayne Half Marathon. It was in Ridgeway, Colorado, and which was my home. And it was just a gorgeous course. And I was like, 13 miles. I was like, that freaking sounds gnarly. And it wasn't just, it had like 2,000 feet of elevation gain. It was on hiking trails. And so I was like, anyway, I'm going to sign up for it. And so the training for that, just, I had no idea what I was in for, and ended up running that race and got second. So, and I was like, that's interesting, because like everything went really well. And that's what I was like, I really like this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's how
Um,
running, that's how running came into my life. And then after that, signed up for a backyard ultra. I went, the furthest I had ever ran was that 13, I was almost 14 miles, and ended up running 50 miles during that backyard
wow.
ultra. And I was
Holy
like,
smoke.
that was crazy. So then I signed up for a 50 miler, and it was Mad Moose in Fruita, Colorado, called the Kessler Run. and that was absolute hell. I mean, I it was all I could do. My like quad shut down at like mile 25, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I am only halfway through this. I have no
Yeah.
idea I'm gonna finish it, but I did end up finishing it, and I just literally immediately after I was like, what can I sign up for next? Because that was freaking awesome. And then anyway, it just kept snowballing from there.
Yeah. No, let me just totally throw in a plug here for Backyard Ultras. Um, I talked about this on the last podcast I did, but I have a friend, he moved away, he moved to Pittsburgh, another guy moved to Dallas, and we were gonna get together to do a race. Um, you know, whatever. Long story. This kid, Rich, he picked this race, the Wausau backyard up in Wisconsin,
Hmm.
and that's where I met Mark Dowdle, and that was
Oh,
2 years ago. 2 years ago, and we had no idea like what this was like the backyard ultra like format. Like we knew what it was, but we never trained for it. We didn't do it. I just did my normal running, and I mean I got smacked in the face hard. It was not anything like I'd ever done before. Um, and this race was on a like an old ski resort, so you were running up and down like ski trails.
oh wow.
So I can't remember how many feet of elevation it was, but anyway, that's where I met Mark, and I know and then I went and I did another one called The Last Dot, and he was there. He won Wausau, he won The Last Dot, and then obviously I don't know if you've seen or followed that whole BPN thing, but
Oh
man,
yeah.
oh my God. And you know what's fucked up, well, screwed up is that he was my second guest on the podcast.
That's
Was
wild.
Yeah, a nicest guy. And I was telling someone the other day, I'm like, sometimes like you just meet somebody and they have this look in their eyes like that guy's special. Like just the
Hmm.
way he carried himself, the way he talks. Um, he was like you could tell there's something special about that guy. And I'm so happy to see that he was winning. I mean, I was like on that Instagram live every single hour
Yeah.
watching to see what was going on. But man, I tell you, that's one format that it's not for me. I don't, it's like I'm not a 5K runner either, like I just feel like long, slow, steady, maybe a lot of incline and hiking. I can't stand flat because there's no change of pace. But that backyard format is nuts. And those guys are superhuman, man. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Well, you were exactly right about him. He's definitely got that dog inside of him. I think, and he might not agree with this statement, but based on what I saw, I feel like if somebody kept going with him, I think he had another 100 miles in him. It really seemed like he wasn't ready to stop, and it was like the last 50 miles or so he did, he was getting like better and better and better as he
Yeah.
went. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Scary. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. Like in the I saw all these trash talkers online saying like, "Oh, he didn't even come close to the world record." You know why? He didn't have to. That's the way the format is. He didn't
Yeah, there
have to.
was. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, and I definitely think, and that'll be fun. I don't know how you can get into what is it, Big's backyard.
Yeah, there's six qualifiers. So
Okay.
you have to win one of those to get in. And he got
Oh,
in. And he
oh,
got
there
in
you go.
he got in not at BPM, but the one before that where he did 63 hours or something. Yeah, to win the one before that. And that's how he got
Okay.
in.
Okay, so he'll be in. He'll be in
Yeah.
this year. When is that race? Do you know?
I don't. It's towards the fall though, I believe, because he said I just saw he posted something today that he was doing another backyard like next
Uh,
month. And I was like, man, already? Like I ran 50 miles Saturday. I couldn't walk all day Sunday. And then I'm back to walking today. I cut the grass and I'm like, I can't imagine doing another 50 miler next week or 2 weeks from now. But
yeah. Right.
But I'll tell you though, you got in this sport. I'm not sure how old you are, but you like I said this to my friend the other day. I was like, man, I wish I was 30 years younger because this was not as popular now, that it is now rather with social media. I mean, there's a 100-mile race or a 50-mile race like every other week. It seems like it's pretty awesome. In the
Yeah.
community, I talk about this a lot on the podcast with other people. Like, I don't think there's another sport that has that same like camaraderie of people out there helping each other and trying to and making sure, hey, I want to make sure Gavin finishes today, like or just super helpful people with food and nutrition and whatever. It's like I don't see it in any other sport. I don't.
Yeah,
I think
100%.
it's
I
pretty
agree with
cool.
that. Yeah,
Well,
there's
thanks.
something. There's definitely something about the whole running scene, running community that's maybe not more special than other sports, but I think there's just more of like a camaraderie, of just people that support other racers. Yeah, you got your competitive side of things, which is fun to follow as well. But I mean, even then, you listen to like some of the competitors, like the elite athletes, in their post race interviews, and they're like constantly talking about the person that was behind them, the person that was pushing them, the people that inspire them. It's just different than any other sport, I feel like.
Yeah, I think that if you were like just the Boston Marathon was Monday, and every race there's only one winner, right? There's only one winner,
Yeah.
and when you have people that are willing to put in the time, the effort, the sacrifices they make to train and to get to that start line, whether they're a charity runner or a qualified runner, um, they know they're not going to win, and they still do it anyway. You know what I mean? They still do it anyway, and so like when I hear Mark talk about the like where does his mind go and you talk about is it physical, is it mental? And I used to think it's 50-50 whatever, but I'm telling you it's 100% in here. 100%. Because you have to be trained and you have to physically be okay to handle it. But if this isn't working and the battle isn't going to be won in here, you're done, you
A
know?
hundred
And so I
percent.
think that that is the connection with the ultra runners is that they're willing to put in the work and they're willing to suffer because you're going to suffer. There's no question about it, how much pain you can tolerate. You're going to go and experience pain, and it's super easy to quit. You could just walk off the course. You could just stop at the aid station and say, I'm done. But knowing that they're out there, no matter how long they're out there, and they finish races is pretty impressive. And I think that's what I feel like draws people together is that, hey, I saw you struggling like hell and you pushed through that and made it. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that.
And meanwhile, the
Definitely.
winner, the winner
Cool.
finished, 3 hours before that. So
I know. Yeah. Well, and that's what they always say, right? Like, yeah, the winner is very impressive. We all admire the elite athletes, but that person that was out there for like 4 more hours,
yeah,
think they got 4 more hours on their feet than the first, second, or third place did.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that I think it was Meb Keflezighi when he won Boston. He had said that he's like, what's more impressive than me running a 2:05 or whatever was somebody that's running a 4.5 hour marathon. They're out there twice as long as me. They're out there and they're not. It's not like their effort is any less. It's just their effort is not on the elite level as their that as a Meb Keflezighi or whatever. But
Right.
um, Yeah. All right. So let's switch to this run that you're going to do because I don't want to take too much more of your time up. But tell me about what this run is about. I know you have, and I'll share all of the details so people can donate and all that. I think you have the GoFundMe and all that. But what was the genesis of this? And is there any connection to like what did you decide? You just said, "Hey, I'm going to do this one day."
Yeah. So, and real quick on the GoFundMe, I do appreciate any support that does come through and everything because, it takes a lot to put something like this on. But I am in the works of running, for a specific cause. So any money that comes in is going to be divvied up. It's going to help cover the finances on our end, but then it's also going to be directed into this cause. And then while I'm running, any money that's raised during the run is going to 100% go to this cause that I'm actually running for. So I want to make that clear for people because that's important for me. And I had this idea. Um, there's this guy, you probably heard of him, Matt Johnson, who ran across the state of Texas.
Oh yeah.
Well, done it twice, but his first time that he did it is what sparked the idea. I was like, man, how cool would that be to run across your home state? You know what I mean? And especially with Colorado, and being from the western slope, and now I live over on the eastern slope. I grew up pretty much traveling the entire state with like traveling soccer, football, and just growing up in the mountains, skiing everywhere. We were a big ski family. Anyway, I was just like, how cool would it be to like see the state by foot? You know what I mean? Because we all know when you're driving in a car, you can only focus on so much, but when you're biking or hiking or running, your attention is everywhere else. So I was
Yeah.
like, I think I want to see the state, by foot. And then so I researched people that have run across the state because I knew there was going to be some people. And based on all the research that I've done, nobody's done the diagonal version that I want to do, run from corner to corner. There's been plenty of people who have run east to west, north to south. And then Colorado is also kind of special because it shares part of the Four Corners monument, so it's
Yep.
kind of a perfect starting spot. So I was like, you know what, why not start at the Four Corners? And then I could specifically make the course or the route go through my hometown, Montrose. Now, that would be pretty special. And then navigate through the main section, of the Rocky Mountains, and then pop over on the east slope through my wife's hometown, which will be Loveland, Colorado,
Okay.
and then make just my way east, and then eastern Colorado is just beautiful farmland, wide open, flat. And I was like, that would kind of be, even though it's going to be, I'll be in the struggle bus at this point, it's going to be a gorgeous way to end. No more necessarily climbing, no more stuff like that. So going from southwestern corner of Colorado to the northeastern corner of Colorado. And the route that I have is 675 miles. And it'll be roughly about 33,000 of total climbing. Because I'm staying in the main mountain ranges, but I'm staying off of the main mountains, kind of
Yeah.
staying in
Yeah.
the valleys of everything. I'm going to start running on June 7th, specifically a Sunday. I've got a goal of running it in 14 days. That's not, a necessarily like I don't need to run it in 14 days. Obviously, the main goal is to just get it done. So if that takes me 16, if that takes me 18 days, so be it. The main goal is just to get it done. But I want the 2 week goal just because I know this might, attract somebody else to do it. And I kind of want to set that, you know, not untouchable time by any means, but a difficult, time, roughly 50 miles a day for 14 days, So I want it to be, a little bit hard for somebody else to do is the goal of 14 days. And then what I'm running for is like we talked about, something that's real personal for me is addiction recovery. I want, addiction recovery slash, people suffering from like depression and stuff like that, which
Mhm.
kind of in most cases go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And my motto for the run is just, anybody in a dark place, anybody who's like trying to figure out how to get out of addiction, maybe somebody that's like in the middle or in the process of getting out of addiction, but they feel like going backwards. During this run, I know I'm going to get to multiple points during the run, middle towards the end, and I'm not really gonna know how to go forward. So my one motto is just take another step. That's all. Don't worry about what you've got, mileage wise or whatever. Just take that next step. And I
Yeah.
just want to show people that like no matter what you're going through, you've got a choice. You can either stay stuck, stay where you are, or you can just take that one more step and then take a step after that. And then, eventually you're going to keep progressing forward. So I feel like that, that was a pretty good um, motto kind of for the entirety of the run.
A lot, man. I mean, that is pretty awesome. Um, Yeah, that I follow Matt, and it's so funny. I got a quick funny story about him. So he it was like maybe about 2 months ago. I don't know if you saw, he posted something on Instagram, talked about how like, there's all these influences on Instagram and they're always talking about whatever, blah blah blah, but they're not engaging with their audience. And he made it out like it was like he does that, right? So like a month before that, I saw that he had like DNF'd a race. And so I just sent him a message, an Instagram message saying, "Hey man, I saw that, you had a problem, like, hope you're doing all right," type of deal. Like, thanks, whatever, right? And he didn't respond for like a year. And so
Mm.
then when he said that, I took a snapshot of that text I sent and I sent it to him. And he's like, "Oh man, you got me."
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, he just did an Iron Man
Yeah. Yeah,
and a
that's
fast
so
one. I
impressive.
mean,
Yeah.
a
Well,
decent time. Like that guy is nuts. The
for
funniest thing in the world is when I started following him, I was like showing my friends here around here, these guys I run with, when he was like smoking at the end of a run and stuff. I'm like, this guy is nuts, man.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I think he loves to make that. I don't nobody really knows except probably his close friends if he's truly a smoker, you know what I mean? Because it kind of seems like he just kind of makes that for content and maybe
yeah,
part of his personality, you know,
yeah,
but hey, you know what? If he's smoking and running what he's doing and doing the times that he's doing in the training, so be it. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. While we're
That's,
talking about social media influencer type thing, I'll tell you what, man, I finished Andy Glaze's book, and it's
mm,
crazy how, like, reading it, I was like, this is like you feel like somebody, you know what I mean? You feel like because it's so vulnerable, right? And he opened up and all, talked about. Did you read the whole thing? Did you read it? His book,
yeah,
Andy?
I
Yeah.
listened to it on Audible, but I haven't finished it yet. I've still got
Oh,
like an hour left
okay.
on it.
Yeah. It's so relatable, like everything he talks about in that book. And I guess what I'm summarizing here is that it's like we talked about community in this space, right? And we talked about, like I saw you, I saw Mark, and I'm like trying to just make these connections with people that are like-minded, right? And what they've gone through and struggles and all that kind of stuff. But his book was really, really cool. Um, and you read them and you feel like you get to like you know them, right? I mean, the guy is unbelievable. Like he just almost didn't make the streak last week because he was sick. I don't know if you
Yeah.
saw that, and I was like, man. Then I thought about today. I was sitting outside and I was like, it wouldn't be that terrible if he didn't do it. Like, what's going to happen? Like it's not like his life is going to change dramatically if he missed that 1 week. He's still going to be Andy or whatever, right? But anyway, um, so June, so here, this is why we have a couple questions about the run. So June 7th to the whatever ends up being the end. Are
Mhm.
you gonna have any people run with you? Are you open to having people run with you? Are you gonna have it on social media to post to say you're starting here and ending here today? Is there gonna be that kind of thing, or are you just gonna go? Someone's in a van going to follow you. How are you going to do it logistically and on social media?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna. So my wife and my kids were renting a van or a camper, and they're gonna follow me the whole way. So that'll be pretty cool. I told my wife, I was like, "You got way harder of a job than I do. You know, being all the logistics, dealing with two kids. All I got to do is just run every day and then sleep at night and eat. You know." But she's all for it. Which my wife's a rock star. She puts up with all this, you know, and just totally full supporter. So shout out to her. But I'm gonna set up a tracker so people can track me along the way. I'm gonna document every single day on social media. I'm going to non-professional video it every day, and then at the end, I'm gonna throw together, you know, a video
Yep.
of the whole run. I've watched some documentaries on people who have traversed across the United States, and I got inspired to do this thing because I know there's going to be quite a few people who see me out there, you know, multiple
Hmm.
days. And they're going to stop. They're going to be like, "What are you doing?" You know. So anybody that I meet along the way, I want to take a picture with them, and then
Right.
have all of those pictures at the
Right.
end. I watched a documentary on YouTube that this guy did that, and I thought that was the coolest thing. And then when it comes to people running for or with me, yeah, I want to encourage anybody who's, you know, come share a mile, come share 10 miles, half a day, a full day, 2 days, whatever. You know, it's just like anything, you know, you have somebody there who's, especially during the middle of it and the latter half, or the end of it. Anybody who's willing to give their time to me is really going to help me, progress forward and push me along the way. So yeah, I highly encourage anybody who wants to please come out, share some miles. And having the
So
tracker on me will make it easier for people. They'll be like, okay, I know he's here. He's going to be here tomorrow, stuff like that.
are you doing it with like Garmin Connect or like a live track like that or some other device?
I believe it's Garmin. Yeah, a coworker that my wife has, he said he's got a tracker and he's going to let me borrow it. So I've got to get that all set up. I believe it's Garmin. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so stupid question, but like 50 miles a day for 14 days, how are you gonna set up your training from now until, so you got what, 2 months, not even, month and a
Not even.
half?
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, how are you gonna prepare yourself for that? Are you doing that now? Like, are you running every day a long distance?
Yeah, not quite yet because I just came off of that 50K
Yeah,
training. So
right.
it doesn't really go hand in hand, right? That's why I was pushing mileage there towards the end of the 50K training, just because I knew what this next quick training block was going to be. This week I'm giving myself like full recovery. Like today, I just ran 4 miles, real nice, slow and easy. I'm eating tons of food this week to really allow my body to recover. I wasn't horribly, nothing was injured, thank God, after the race. I wasn't horribly sore. I was pretty tight, and like,
Yeah, normal.
expectedly sore, but like I ran Sunday, just like a 2 mile shakeout run, and everything felt good. I just wanted to kind of get the blood flowing and test it. So I'm going to keep doing 5, 6 miles the rest of this week. And then it's just full on stack the load starting next week. I reached out to David Roach,
Oh
emailed
yeah.
him, and I said, I know this isn't your typical plan that you would give somebody, but I'm asking for your advice. I said, this is what I've got going on. This is what I'm coming off of the 50K training plan. I was like, what would be your recommendation for the 5 weeks leading into this? And he told me, he's like, don't focus so much. Obviously, you need to, be running pretty good distance throughout the week, but he's like, don't focus so much on stacking the high mileage. He said, focus more on a lot of climbing and a lot of like bombing downhills to really strengthen the quads and like get a bunch of fatigue resistance. So with, I'm going to be running like the next 3 weeks will be anywhere from like 80 to 100-mile weeks, but I'm also really going to focus on like slow, a lot of uphill treadmill, and then
Yep.
a lot of slow runs up, and then just bombing downhills to really try to get fatigue resistance and quad strengthening. And just being, that short of time period that I have for training. Luckily, before the 50K plan, before I actually set this run in stone, I did a base building plan. So it was a 10-week base builder. And
Yep.
I was averaging about 75, 80 miles a week. They were all like just zone one, zone two runs.
Yep.
And so I really, again, without even knowing that this was going to be my summer, that kind of was the perfect, start of the year. So I'm coming off of that. Long story short, I'm probably not going to be fully prepared, for what I'm going to ask of the body. But like you said earlier, I think if not 100%, 98% of it's mental, you
Yeah.
know. So just power through it. I'm giving myself 12 to 14 hours a day to complete the 50 miles. There are some days to where, because to get the 14-day goal, it's going to be average about just 49 miles a day. But obviously, there's going to be some days where I'm climbing way more than others. So those days, the mileage is going to be a little bit more limited to get the window to, because I still want to focus, on recovery and sleep and not just totally trash myself out. So with that being in mind, I've catered the plan. I've got it all written down, but like some days are going to be more of like 40 miles to like 42 miles. And then I'm going to have a few days in there, hopefully, that the body will be willing to like push the 53, 54-mile mark to kind of even it out. Just because, like I said, a lot of the days you're going to have a lot more climbing than others. So I got to take that in consideration.
just thinking about it now, it sounds like insane, like to have to run that long every day. Now,
Mhm.
are you going to plan on, you mentioned 12 to 14-hour days. Are you going to plan on trying to do it with like sun up to sundown, or are you going to try to mix it up if you're feeling like, hey, I need an extra couple hours, I'm going to wait and run at like noon to like midnight, or are you going to, or you just it's just playing it by ear, I'm guessing.
Um, I will probably end up playing it by ear, playing it by feel, but
Yeah.
the my plan to start out is to run up sun up to sundown. You know, start 6 a.m., hopefully be done by 6 to 8 p.m. in the evening, just kind
Yep.
of dealing with the daylight hours because again, a majority of the route is going to be on like busier roads, so I don't really want to be playing with the whole nighttime deal.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, there are going to be days to where I'm like, I would really benefit by sleeping 2 more hours this morning, starting a little bit later. So we'll just
Yeah.
have to. But no, the overall plan is to go, from sun up to sundown and try to be done by that time.
Questions about this. So when I run the roads, we're lucky where I live. We have 10-foot sidewalks, and there's a lot of running paths around here. But when I used to live in Boston, I was like always on the street, and I would run against traffic. So for this run, are you running with traffic or against traffic?
Majority of the run, I'm going to be running against traffic.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
because
Yeah.
I know that's not what drivers prefer, but that's as being an experienced runner, on the roads when I feel a lot more comfortable when I'm
Yeah.
facing traffic and I can know, do I need to
Yeah.
get out of the way right now, or does this person see me?
Yeah, absolutely. And then another question about like say logistics type deal is, did you have to get a, are you or you do you need to get like a permission or like a permit or anything like that?
Yeah, so there's one section that I can't call them yet because the state park isn't open yet, or national park, I guess it is, but it's Rocky Mountain National Park. So I'm
Okay.
going to be going through Granby, Colorado, and then, well, actually, I can call to find out the information. It's just I need to see when they've got a road that goes up through and then into Estes that typically opens Memorial Weekend. I think this
Okay.
year they're going to open a little sooner just because of the lack of snow we've had this year. But that one I need a day pass, and then I'm going to be in there for 2 days because on the first day I enter, I'm going to go pretty much halfway into the park, and then that's where I'll stop for that day. We'll drive back to Granby. I'll camp there that night, and then I'll start at that starting point again the next day. So I'll need 2 day passes. And the only reason I need to call ahead and figure out the logistics from them is because um, on their busy season, there's so many people that go through the park. Sometimes they stagger the time that they allow you through the
Oh,
park. So I just
yeah.
need to make sure that they know I'm coming through. Here's
Yeah.
my expected dates that I'm coming through. And like, I technically need like your permission to whenever I do come through that you're gonna, allow me to go through because I'm not really there to sightsee, even though it'll be
Yeah.
beautiful. I'm just there to get through it.
Right. Yeah. And you mentioned you had the one daughter. How many kids do you have?
I've got 2 kids.
Two kids. Boy,
Yeah.
girl, girl, girl.
Girl and a boy. The
Girl and
older
a boy.
one's a girl. Yep.
So think about, like you said, the memory I have of this 50-mile race this past weekend. Think about these guys when they grow up, this memory of having, being in a camper and driving across the whole state with their dad running. Like I have two girls. They're 22 and 19, but like both of them they played tennis and soccer and all that, but they were never running. And what's
Mhm.
really cool is they both recently started asking me about running. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. So like it's cool to have you don't know what kind of impact that's going to have on them when they get older, right? They're going to see their crazy dad running the highway for 14 days straight. It's like that's pretty
Yeah.
good summer.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I don't think my boy will probably remember. He just turned 2,
Yeah,
but
but
my
still,
girl, yeah. Yeah. Well, and there'll be plenty of, pictures and stuff like that. But my
yeah.
girl will definitely remember. Yeah. She's 4. So,
Yeah.
I know when I was 4, I've got some memories. It's funny you say that because, even being doing the social media that I do, I'm constantly making videos and the kids are wanting to watch the videos and then they'll see me, running constantly and my boy's always like, "Running?
Yeah.
Running?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
already a part of them. My girl Sage, we haven't done it in a while because I leave it on her terms because I want it to be fun. But I do this little segment. It's called Miles with Sage,
Hmm.
and her and I will go out. And the first time I was just like, we're just gonna go out, we're gonna have fun, we're gonna run and see how far we go. And she ended up going a mile.
Yeah.
And so we've done that 3 times now to where she'll just go out. And again, I wait for her to ask me, but she loves it. We leave from the garage, we go down into the park, and then we come back. And yeah, we
Yeah.
stop, every 30 feet, especially if we go by the swing sets. We got to stop
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
little swing, but yeah, we ended up getting about a mile in, so that's pretty
That's
fun.
awesome. All right. Well, first, congratulations on the race. That's awesome. That's pretty cool to have a PR. Congrats on this thing that you're gonna do, and congrats on making it through a difficult time. Because I feel like one of the things I was gonna say earlier about social media that I saw today, which was awesome, and I think it was it's you've probably seen it where it'll be like I know that people that know me and that like my relatives, they're like sick of hearing about running, right? They're sick of hearing, oh, you ran again, oh, you ran a 50 miler, whoop-de-doo, whatever. And but it's the people that you don't know that are like, hey, Gavin, unbelievable job. Like, you know what I mean? It's just so crazy. Like the people you don't know are out there supporting you and you don't even know. Like, you're somebody's Mark Dowdle, right? Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I found you out there on social media, but I like your content. I'm following along and I mean, that's why I asked about are you gonna run with people or let people come run? And I'm thinking about, jumping in the car and driving out there and running for a day with you or so.
well, that'd be
But
great.
thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. Good luck. I'm sure I'll text you the shorts. And then I want to ask if you send me some pictures or something like that so I can put this together for YouTube. That'd be great.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, man.
No, that'd be
Well,
great. Thanks for having me on, man, and I really appreciate it. And yeah, when it comes to the run, when I get to the eastern part of Colorado, I I would definitely lessen your drive a bit. So
yeah.
the latter part of it, yeah, please, if you're willing, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's probably when you're going to need the most support, right?
100%. Yep. No doubt
Uh,
about it.
all right, man. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, John, it was nice meeting you. Thank you.
Nice meeting you too, Gavin. Talk to you later.
Okay. Thanks.
See ya.